Hello, and thank you for exploring Lakehead International's videos. My name is Jordan, and I am the International New and Social Media Officer. I'm also the host of the Lakehead International Live series, a fun and informative way for you to connect with current international students, professors, and ask questions about admissions and everything Lakehead. You are about to watch a recording from one of our previous live sessions. If any questions arise throughout the video, please do not hesitate to comment below. If you would like to check out some of our upcoming live sessions, please head over to our website at lakeheadu.ca/international-live. Let's begin. Hello and welcome to another Lakehead International Live. My name is Jordan Ball. I'll be your host today. We're gathered to chat about the Natural Resources Management faculty here at Lakehead University. And we are very excited to have some special guests directly from the faculty, including the Dean himself. And so before we get started, I'll do a quick introduction and then we'll introduce everyone on today's panel. I want to thank you again for joining us, whether it's your morning, your afternoon, or evening. We appreciate your time, and we hope you brought plenty of questions with you today to ask our faculty live. So once again, my name is Jordan Ball. I am the International New and Social Media Officer. I help run our live events, our digital experiences, social media here at Lakehead International, as well as our Global Ambassador Program. Next, I'll pass over to Hector to introduce himself, and then we'll go down the line with Dr. Renison, Dr. Lech, and Jennifer.
Thank you very much, Jordan. Hello, everyone. My name is Hector Michelena, and I am one of the international recruitment officers here at Lakehead. My main role is to help prospective students like you find the right program here at Lakehead University and guide you through the applications and admissions process. So I'm happy to answer any questions about applying to Lakehead, and yeah, thank you.
Awesome. Thank you for joining us, Hector. Next, I'll pass over to Ulf.
Yeah, good morning. My name is Ulf Renison. I'm the Dean of the faculty. I'm a forester. I'm proud of it. And anyway, our faculty has been around for a long time, very student-centered, very concerned about getting the best experience possible, very concerned about when students come into our faculty, that they are well looked after, but they leave very employable. That is fundamental to our process on how we get the students through our process. Just so you know, this is not the ordinary faculty. This is not a place to be anonymous. We'll take care of you, but you have to take care of yourself too, and we'll lead you to a very good career. Thank you.
Awesome, thank you. Next, I'll pass over to Matthew.
Hi, my name's Dr. Leach. I'm also I'm a faculty member. I'm a chair of the forestry program, and I'm also a forester like Ulf. And I work with students. As Ulf said, we work quite closely with our students. We're a fairly small faculty, so we have a open door policy. Students come see us anytime. And yeah, I also work in the area of wood science, forest products, etc. So yeah, look forward to meeting.
Awesome, thanks for joining us. And last but not least, I'll pass it over to Jennifer.
And if you
Hi there, my name's Jennifer. I'm the administrative assistant for the Faculty of Natural Resources. I'm generally the first point of contact for students and sometimes parents. I'm available by phone, email, or in person. I have regular office hours now. We're in the Braun building, so if you're on campus, you can come by and see us. And I do my utmost to advocate for the students and assist and support them in getting from first year to graduation.
Awesome. Well, thank you to the three of you for joining us, and thank you, Hector, for helping me co-host. Of course, today we are going to be focusing on the Faculty of Natural Resources Management. And with that, I will pass it over to Ulf to kick things off with a high-level overview of NRM here at Lakehead University.
Thank you, Jordan. So Natural Resources Management, what is that? Well, it's a science-based approach. So of course, Jordan also mentioned that we have a Faculty of Science and Environmental Studies, which is fantastic, is great. But we're also science-based faculty focusing on the very applied essence of natural resources, initially on a Canadian concept, but in the last number of years, the last dozen years or so, we have really decided to take a very strong international focus to our program. And so students come to us. We normally keep them for 4 years, unless they're co-op. They come to a master's program, normally 2.5 years for a thesis-based program. For a course-based program is 16 months. And again, we are very focused on making sure that when you graduate as a professional, you graduate with a lot of pride and be able to do stuff, not just have a degree. There's a lot of degrees handed out across the world. The degree you get from us is very valuable. Everybody's going to say that, but I truly mean it. Both Dr. Leach and I have been here a long time, and we have seen what happens to our graduates and the incredible careers they end up with. But I pass it over to Matthew Leach to give you a little more insight of what the faculty is all about.
Thanks, Ulf. Yeah, as Ulf mentioned, I mean, we're a fairly small faculty, which enables us to really put our program first and make sure that we provide, every student a great education. And that right down to the simple fact that, a student walks down the hallway, they can walk into, if we're in our office, they can come see us anytime. We have 100% open door policy. It's just one of those things that makes us very easy to access for students. They come talk to us, which is fairly regular. I have students, they come for academic advising, but they also come just to chat. I mean, they're quite comfortable with their professors here, and that makes it, I think, enjoyable for the students. And we take pride in the fact that we are, part of Lakehead is experiential learning. We have several woodlots. Our students have lots of labs, both in the buildings, but also in our woodlots. And on top of that, has been mentioned, our field school, which every year at the beginning, we go out for 2 weeks and we give them more hands-on, meeting industry players, meeting government people, NGOs, environmental groups, seeing things firsthand, trying things firsthand, both regionally and nationally, but also internationally, where we take students on international field schools, or we have been pretty much to every continent, I think, on the planet, short of Antarctica. So we take pride in the fact that, we give our students an experience, and they learn a lot, not just from textbooks, but they learn a lot firsthand and hands-on, which, you can see it in our students. They absolutely love the program. And as Ulf said, when they come out of our program, they're prepared to work. And we are quite proud of the fact I've been here almost 20 years. And since I've been here, we have pretty much 100% employment at graduation of all our students. So that's, I think, the feather in our cap for our education and the programs we offer.
One thing that both Matt and I and Jen take a lot of pride in is the fact that, let's assume you have a problem on a Wednesday. Well, let's hope that we can solve the problem on the very same Wednesday. So, for example, our front office is our sort of a clearinghouse, not just formally, but also emotionally, personally. Make sure you make yourself heard, for one thing, but also that you feel like got heard properly. So Jen in the front office, and we have 2 people in the front office, really takes on a very personal touch to this. Both Matt and I have been involved in forestry at different institutions. One thing we learned is that we got to take care of our students. They're the very reason why we're here. And again, Jen Bain, and maybe Jen, you can say something there. Jen really has their heart in the right place to help our student body, whether they have a simple problem, a huge problem, or something they want to celebrate. The clearinghouse for that is Jen Bain. Jen, what do you have to say to that?
Thanks, Ulf. Well, it may be the point of contact for the main office. I'm often someone that people come to for guidance on what their next steps are in whatever their issue is. And I've always seen myself as an advocate for the students because I understand the behind the scenes goings on at the university. And having been a student myself, because I'm an alumni of the university, I understand what it's like to be a student and to be a little confused, a little lost, not sure what to do. And often students are nervous to approach their faculty, especially with something personal. And I'm always happy to help and direct the students. And actually, it's been lovely. It's my favorite part of my job is working with the students. And many of them have, stayed in touch years after the fact, just because a little bit of kindness and understanding can go a long way. So pleasure to help them. Your success is our success. We can only help you if we know that there's something that's an issue to you. So I encourage all students to come forward, even if you think it's something silly or maybe not important that's affecting your academics. Maybe it's something personal. We're always happy to support you and direct you, because we want to keep our students happy and we want to accommodate you in any way that we can.
One thing I'd like to add to that, we always tell our students that you're here to make friends. And absolutely that takes place. I've been here a long time, much longer than Matt. He's been here for 2 decades. I've been here longer than that. I've been here for 3 decades. And one thing I'd like to say is that not only do students make friends with other students, we make friends with the students too. And we maintain those friendships over the years. And truly, that is the very fun part of this job. Today, I received a student. He's not going to be a student at Lakehead, but here's a visiting PhD student from Ghana. He came yesterday, and on Saturday, sorry. He came on Saturday. He's here for 6 months. The only reason why he's here is that we had a relationship with Ghana over the years. We learned how to do things there, and they learned how we do things. And we have maintained some of those contacts, both in Ghana and here. And this particular student came here because a close friend of mine, and Matt's for that matter, told his students in Ghana, come to Lakehead for 6 months and learn something and then go back. So he came on Saturday. I haven't met him yet, by the way. It's the picture on the, right now there's a drone in the picture. I put him into drone training for the first 3 days. So he's here doing a PhD on Ghana conditions and Savannah conditions. And today is learning how to pilot drones to get a Transport Canada advanced license. So that's how we start him. And I'm a remote sensor. Matt is a wood scientist, and the two go together very, very much. And Matt, maybe you have something to add to Ghana.
Yeah, well, like I say, it's an exciting time for us because, as Ulf mentioned, we've been in Ghana for quite some time, and we're just sort of reinvigorating it. I've been going there for a few years now, and we've signed 5 MOUs with universities and research organizations in Ghana. And so the goal now is to move forward with both training, doing research exchanges. So we'll have undergrad and graduate student exchanges, both from Canada to Ghana and Ghana to Canada, and research programs utilizing the technologies we've developed to essentially help them with issues they're having in their forestry and mining and natural resource management areas. So it's quite exciting. And these are also sort of some of the things we like to expose our students to and give opportunities to our students to travel on these sorts of trips. Like, I mean, I will be working a lot more as well in Ghana, but I also work in South Africa, and several of our faculty work in various places around the world where we include our students in that. So it's just another opportunity for them, not only to see how we do business in Canada, but also, which also we teach in our international field school, is how the rest of the world does business. As far as
just ramble off a couple of countries that we've been to with field school. We've been to China a couple of times with field school. We've been to India a couple of times. We've been to Sweden, Finland, Estonia, Croatia, Czech Republic, Mexico. We mentioned Ghana. We mentioned South Africa. We've also been to Ecuador, and of course the US of A. And we're going to continue this. We had a little bit of a stall because of COVID, but that's a temporary blip. We will continue with this shortly to go international for field schools for those students that like to go. And you do not have to be rich to be part of this field school. They're very affordable. And it's not to show you that it's better anywhere else. It's to show you it's different somewhere else. And that the way we do things in Canada and in Ontario is probably darn good. And I just want you to see that. I'm Swedish, in case you haven't caught on that a name like mine is probably not Canadian from the origin. I grew up in Sweden, and a lot of people think forestry and natural resources, that's the Scandinavian countries that do it better. That's not entirely true. It's not remotely close to be the truth. they do it differently. And that's what we would like to show you on these field schools.
Awesome. I'll jump in here, and I really like the mention of the fact that your faculty has that global perspective and that international outlook in terms of the education and the opportunities you offer. But circling back to another thing Dr. Leach mentioned was the fact that our students, when they graduate from the program, are essentially career ready and are really, really great prospects. And so when they enter that career field, they're almost guaranteed a job. And so I think that's a really great segue into the fact that at our undergraduate courses, we study all aspects within the first 2 years that set that foundation for a really strong student. And so I'll pass it back to the Alf and Matt, and I'll let you speak more about why it's so important that we establish that foundation for our first years and our second years.
Let me start. We assume when you first come here that we know best. And I don't mean that in a authoritative kind of way, but initially we think we know what you should know initially to get going. Then it's up to you to decide what you want to do with this. So the first 2 years, there are no electives. It sounds like, oh my God, no electives. We do that on purpose. After 2 years, you have a foundation that is rock solid. And then I'll let Matt decide to tell you what happens after 2 years. Matt.
Okay, so as Alf mentioned, the first 2 years, it's sort of factual based knowledge that you need to move forward. In third year, the students either decide that they want to be on the, as it shows here, the environmental or the Honors Bachelor of Environmental Management or the Honors Bachelor of Science and Forestry. I chair the forestry program, and Dr. McLaren chairs our EM program. So you pick one of them, and in the first 2 years, our students tend to talk and mingle with the third and fourth year. So they hear a lot about what they do in their programs that they've chosen and the kind of jobs they've been getting. And so they may start in first year thinking, I'm going to be in environmental management. And by third year, they, decide, well, I've had a few jobs and I'm going to go forestry, or vice versa. And we've had both. So what they do is you make a selection in third year, which program you want to be in. And then within those programs, there's 3 options, 3 streams or specializations. In the forestry side, you can see we've got forest management, health and protection, and forest products and marketing. On the EM side, they've got wildlife conservation and management, conservation planning, and sustainable land use. The one commonality across both sides is that the one thing we do produce are managers, okay, people that have a great deal of knowledge in the area that they've been trained, and they are set to be in a position of management. Okay, it doesn't mean they have to be in that position, but they have the qualifications for that. And so they select one, and then once you select your program, say on the forestry side, if you were to go into, say, forest products and marketing, which is one of the streams that I run, the focus is still forestry. The core courses are common amongst the 3 streams. Where it varies is, as Alf mentioned, in these years, you start to get into your electives. And so in the forest products and marketing, you may take things like advanced wood science, the forest products and marketing course, or entrepreneurship courses, marketing, things like that you can select from in your open or restricted electives. And the same applies across the streams on both sides, both programs that we have. So your ability to sort of veer into interesting things that you might find in an area come into play in third and fourth year. And that you follow that through. And again, there's commonality between the 2 programs, our capstone courses, thesis, management planning, things like that. Both forestry and environmental management take. Both programs take similar core courses, and then they have variability in their electives. So that gives you a little bit more flexibility to focus on an area you may have a little bit more interest in, or a career that you want to sort of focus more on as far as your course load that you take. So there's quite a bit of flexibility and variability. And of course, students who aren't sure, they come and speak to either myself or Brian, and we can give you advice on basically on what you are interested in, then we can sort of help you direct you towards where you are and the types of careers that may be available, and that helps students make a decision.
One thing I'd like to add to that, we do not control what our students do in the summertime unless they are co-op students. But we strongly suggest to students, and most students listen to that advice, but not all, you have 3 summers before you finish the program if you're a regular student. Please use them properly. There are tons of job opportunities for those 3 summers. And those 3 summers will guide you towards what you should do towards the end. It's a way to make connections. And those summer jobs are paid really well. They're not minimum wage jobs. They can be anywhere across Canada. They can be international, including down in the US. And there's plenty of them. It's a huge mistake to go through our program and don't take advantage of the summers, because you're building that portfolio. And that includes what you did in the summertime. Jordan, when do you want to talk about co-op? Maybe that's the proper place now.
I'll jump back to co-op in a second. Next, I'll chat about graduate programs. I think for some of our students, the natural path for them is completing an undergrad with Lakehead, and then hopefully they'll stick on with a graduate program. Other students join us directly at the grad level, so they already have an undergraduate degree from their home institution, whether it's back in their home country, or they've already completed a degree here in Canada or somewhere else, and now they're ready to go to that next level. And so we do offer a master's program as well as a doctoral program. So I'll pass back to the faculty to chat about these, and then we'll come full circle and talk about co-op experiences.
Okay. Let me start it. So we, of course, have masters and PhDs. Our master's programming is broken into a thesis-based traditional master's program where you're here for 2.5 years. Sometimes it takes a little longer, not very often shorter, but it's usually a 2-year program where you do you take courses and you focus on a thesis topic of some sort, hopefully something well thought through. Many of our students, maybe not all, but most of our students are funded for this through scholarships and various means to keep themselves fed throughout the program. We also have a course-based program that is 16 months in length. So you take a number of courses, you do field school, 2 weeks, you do a 3.5 to 4 months internship. And that internship, you can almost think of it as a co-op. You get placed, and we look after the placements, either here, somewhere else in Canada, or internationally, to work with an employer of some sort for 3.5 to 4 months, where you have to do something useful for whoever provided the internship, but also something useful for yourself. And at the end, you have to report on what you learned and why it was important. And we find that this is incredibly important to steer you in the right direction. And then, as I said, there's no thesis, but you take courses. Some of the courses are there to strengthen your professional stance. The background of students in the course-based or anything science applied, could be agriculture, it could be environmental science, environmental studies, environmental management. And then, of course, we also have PhD in forest sciences, and I'll let Matt discuss that.
Okay, well, the doctoral program obviously is your top degree. And so we have a very strong program where, the typical doctoral is 3 to 4 years. You're working under supervision of a professor with a committee. Pretty much all of our doctoral students are funded, and then they can get additional funds depending on where they're from and what they're doing. And like I say, these are research-based programs. There's no course-based doctoral. So you do a research project, you conduct a project yourself, obviously, come up with a project. And when you get to a doctoral level, you're really, you become quite focused in a certain area. And I always tell people, if you're gonna go to a doctoral level, you have to have a passion for that particular area, because you very much focused, this is what your future is going to be. So the people we have in the doctoral are usually very focused and very passionate about it. So it makes it, as a supervisor, it makes it enjoyable, because you have students who are extremely passionate about it. But it's it is a doctorate, so it's a lot of work. It's not something, it's not like a typical assignment. It's 4 years of hard work, conducting research and writing it up, presenting it at conferences and so on and so forth, possibly ideally publishing it as well. So it's the next level of education. From there, people end up, getting positions like we have as professors or in research or, in government, so on and so forth. So at all levels of degrees, there's lots of positions, there's lots of jobs available. It seems to be right now. We're hard pressed to produce enough students to meet market demand. So for students coming into these programs, it's a great time. There is lots of opportunities out there, and there's lots of interesting things happening at all levels.
And let me add to this too. If you are looking into further education at the undergraduate level, don't worry right now if a graduate program is part of your future. When I was an undergraduate a few years ago, I did not particularly focus on any graduate programming. I actually remember telling a friend of mine, grad program, you got to be kidding. I'm going to be out there and I'm going to be a forester, and that's the end of it. Well, through work experience, I started to realize that maybe the passion I'm building for something in particular, maybe I can do something different with that. So yes, I went back to school, never regretted it, but it took a long time. Matt, I think, had the same experience. And Matt, by the way, took off across the world and went to Australia for his graduate programming for the PhD. And again, the world shrinks a lot when you're in this particular field. Natural resources, call it whatever you want. I'm a forester, so people ask me, what is a forester? And I said, well, it's a land steward. Forestry is land stewardship. That's how I define it. Jordan, maybe now it's time to go into the co-op.
For sure, yeah. And at this point, I'll pass it over to Hector to chat about our co-op program.
Excellent. Thank you, Jordan. So just to give you an idea of what cooperative education is, for like as a general concept for, the programs that offer cooperative education program or opportunities. It's a formal part of a curriculum that integrates classroom study with work experience. Okay, so this usually gives students a very competitive advantage when they graduate. As they graduate with work experience in their field of study. And generally it helps them find jobs more easily and attain higher salaries upon graduation. So there are some cooperative opportunities within our Faculty of Natural Resources Management. And how it works usually in general, students get to choose either a 4-month or a 16-month work term, and during that period of time they will be working full-time, not studying and not paying tuition fees during the cooperative education program. There is an admin fee to participate in it, but again, it's going to be a 4 to 16 month of work experience that you're going to gain, and the salaries vary between $20 to $25 per hour. And we have over 140 national and international partners hiring students from our cooperative education program. As you can see in the slide, there's companies such as IBM, BlackBerry, banks like HSBC, Royal Bank, and the university will provide our students with different resources for them to find the cooperative education opportunities that really resonate with them. And so we will help students develop interviewing skills, job searching skills. And for international students, you will need a work permit for your cooperative education program. And we do have an immigration advisor that can help you with that. Okay.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Hector. And on that note, I think it's another great segue into our unique learning opportunities, where we'll talk about other opportunities where you're going to get hands-on experience and you're going to be able to put that theory that you've learned in your courses, in your classroom environment, and put it into practice in the real world. And so that's our segue into field school. I know that we could probably chat endlessly about both domestic field school as well as our international field school. And I know we've only just barely covered the surface, so I'll pass it back to our faculty to kick it off with this discussion.
Let me start. Field school. I mentioned that we've been to 12 different countries besides Canada. Again, it's not just to sit in a yellow school bus or whatever color the school bus is in the various countries. It is to go and meet with people that are doing things related to the environment, to the natural resources, and to kind of get a flavor of what it means to be a professional. In this particular photograph, I think we're simply somewhere out of town here. It's a first year group, so these are green students learning about whatever is holding in his hand there, the instructor. But for example, Matt Leach, this year, we finally got out of COVID restrictions for field schools. He took them, for example, to a place fairly close to here where they're drilling test holes for nuclear waste disposal. You may say, what the heck does that have to do with forestry? Well, it does. It's land management. And so these field school experiences are dealing with all kinds of things that are maybe not immediately apparent to what it's all about. First year field school is usually around town. Some Thunder Bay, that is. We're not in Southern Ontario. Second year field school is also fairly close, but more goes into other things than simply forest measurements and learning how plants. In second year, learn more about soils, you learn more about some GIS, geographic information systems. Third year, you learn more about, you go further out, you go into provincial or national parks. You learn more about wildlife management. You learn about the indigenous opportunities. You learn about some industrial applications, whether it's simply moving fiber to mill, and also how do you deal with the fact that Canada is working primarily on Crown land, which means that there's all kinds of other considerations. Fourth year field school, we like to go somewhere else. So we usually take the students further away. So typically that has been Southern Ontario. We've been to New Brunswick. We've been to Manitoba, Saskatchewan, and Alberta. In Alberta, of course, we took advantage of the fact that they have the oil sands. So not only did we go see the oil sands, but we also chartered aircraft and the students got to go up and circle that darn thing to see what it looks like from the air. And then I'm a remote sensor, so of course we created three-dimensional views from the air of the whole oil sands project and what it's all about. So again, when we went to New Brunswick is drastically different in the way they do forest management than the rest of Canada. And then Matt can talk about what we do for the international field trips, because Matt has been on a number of them.
Yeah. Okay. And just to add to what all said there, even with our national ones, you know, people would say, well, the oil sands, what's that got to do with forestry? Well, if you look at it, we have actually grad students who are employed up there. And part of what they're looking at is remediation. What sort of plants and things can you do to remediate sites once they're done? Their industrial applications. So, you know, there's sort of odd angles that we come in on things where our knowledge is quite valuable. So that's why we tend to show people everything, even the waste management for the nuclear waste management over in the interesting thing was that they're on the landscape. So they needed forestry to put their roads in. They need forestry to help with the landscape around it, with the waterways and all of that. So they bring in expertise. The person who's running the office over there is a graduate from our biology program here at Lakehead. So, you know, and you think, well, what's he got to do with nuclear waste management? Well, they're doing biological studies on what the effects could be. So they're looking at the landscape and how putting an installation like this in may affect it. So it all ties together. And I mean, at the end of the day, everything's natural resources on the planet. And so we can touch on a lot of things. So when we go international, the one thing we do try and do, and it's they're focused trips, but we try and hit on everything because we bring both the forestry and the environmental management students. They're mixed. We mix them up and bring them on these trips together. And that's quite intentional because I always say to the students, for the forestry students, it's good to understand what the environmental students are doing. And I say the environmental students, it's good to understand what the forestry students are doing, because in the end, when they graduate and start working, they will be working with each other. So the more they understand, the better off they're going to be in their employment. And so when we take these trips, we look at everything from industrial forestry to hardcore, harvesting, going through mills, going through harvest operations. But we also sit with environmental groups, NGOs, policy groups within the government organizations. And so we try to show them all aspects of it, right from government down to environmental to everything. That way they get to see exactly how the rest of the world deals with things. And one of the common comments we get is that we're really good at what we do in Canada. Contrary to what some people may say, the bottom line is when you look globally, we're very good at what we do with natural resources. And the students get to see that and they get to compare. So it's a real eye opener, and we go everything from, trips where we show them around to when I took another professor and I took students to South Africa to the World Forestry Congress, International Congress conference. There was 3,500 participants at it. So on many days we were at the conference so they could see globally all aspects of forestry at international world congresses, forest congresses. It's everything from the environmental to the forestry to the wildlife to everything. And then we also had field trips. So we took them out to see forestry in Southern Hemisphere countries, which is very different, as well as, tourism, environmental things. So we really try and hit, when we take these trips, they're very well thought out. We take a lot of time to make sure that we can expose the students to the most things possible. We travel around, meaning we stop in little communities, we stop along the way, so they can see everything, not just the big places and the big stops, everything in between, which, basically makes a country up. So it's really quite, this picture here is in Ecuador in South America. And, the one thing you see, a lot of these pictures we take with the students, there's always smiles on their faces. They totally, it's just a lot of students, it's the first time they've traveled outside of Ontario, let alone Canada, and then international to the other hemisphere on this planet. So it's a real experience for the students. And I speak with, as Alf said, we become friends with our students. Several of the students are now professionals and they drop over for dinners, and I talk with them quite frequently. And they always bring up, the trip they had when we went to Sweden, or when we went to South Africa, or when we went to Finland, and the stuff that they did, and, how much closer they got to their classmates, and, still they're friends to these days. They never lose touch. So that's really something that, makes us quite proud of what we do, and that we know our students make lifelong friends. They become lifelong friends for us. They become good promoters of our program, and employers of our program. I get calls from students who used to be with us all the time saying, Matt, we've got these 3 students as potentials. What do you think? So they're that comfortable that they can just call us like that and want to chat with us. So I think, that says a lot about our program, I think.
And just to build on that a little bit, Matt, the misconception that environmental management and forestry are 2 separate things. They're not. They're very integrated. Regardless of which program you choose, you're going to end up working with the very colleagues you have in school. And so field school is a wonderful vehicle for building your networks, lifelong friendships, because you're going to be working with these people later on, whether you think you are or not. And as Matt said, years later, these very graduates have come back to the faculty, and they may be recruiting for industry, government. They know the program, so they know the kind of graduates that we produce, and they trust our judgment because they get to know us well. And it's a very symbiotic relationship. So regardless of which program you choose to go into, you're going to be crossing paths with these very same colleagues later on in your life. And the bonding that happens in field school, and because you guys were only in it together, you do see these lifelong friendships, which is really exciting.
And just to add to that, Jen, when we were in field school this year, all the places I took students, pretty much, I think 90% of the places we took students had our former students as employees giving the tours to our new students, which was awesome.
Awesome. I think that also, to reiterate, I know we've talked about it, it speaks volumes that our past graduates are coming directly back to their past faculty and to their past school to say, hey, we know the program, we learned it, and we are confident and we're doing great things in our field. We want students that are getting that same level of education. And so I think that's a good segue. We've talked about sort of the far reaches of the program, the international aspects of the program, and the opportunities, but more close to home and actually built into many of our classroom environments, whether it's physically on the Lakehead University Thunder Bay campus or within our external field opportunities. We have plenty of state-of-the-art scientific equipment and laboratories. So I know on the high level, natural resources management can be painted with a broad stroke to say it's just about the environment and trees. People paint it with such a broad stroke that they think it's all about the earth. And that's not the case. We involve a lot of technologies in that high level equipment into regular learning that then our students can actually bring to their future job. And in many cases, I've heard from Alf, I know you've talked to me about this, is the fact that our students are bringing skills that even current employees don't have. And so our students come with that extra level of awareness and understanding of new technologies within the field. So once again, I'll pass it back to the faculty. They can speak to this certainly more than I can.
Now, let me start this. So this is a picture, a couple of years old, actually. That's a drone we used to use. I'm a remote sensing person. Dozen years or so ago, we got into drones, and we're still heavily involved in satellite imagery, aerial photography. The satellite imagery these days daily passes over here, so we have incredible coverage from above. Now we got into drones, I think 10, 11 years ago, and they have almost 20 of them. Today, by the way, we're running a drone class. Transport Canada endorsed drone pilot training course for undergraduate students that are willing to do something extra. And again, we are doing thermal scanning. We had a thesis student last year who was doing thermal and some weird scanning over agricultural farms to see what happened to invasive insects, what happens to disease control or whatnot. We're flying thermal, which could be used for fire, but also to search and rescue missions, if that's your thing. Again, students that are keen on this have ample opportunity to do this. We have state-of-the-art soils laboratories, state-of-the-art equipment for doing pathology or tree disease analysis. Matt, talk about what you do, because it's truly incredible.
So I'm a wood science and forest products. So my labs, I built them, and they, as Al said, they're state of the art. I actually have consulted industry on what equipment to buy, and they buy what I have to match up. So we have brand new facilities. I mean, we're in the Braun building at Lakehead, which is the original building on campus, but it is full of a whole bunch of really neat stuff. Like even this picture that you're showing here is one of my groups in the summer where we're undertaking a huge project on wood property mapping. And you see a bunch of wood there and you think, well, that's pretty simple. But then that wood goes from there and we prepare samples. It goes on to universal wood testing machines, which are international standards for testing wood properties, X-ray densitometers. So I have X-ray machines in my lab, fiber analyzers, which analyze at the microscopic, at the fiber level. Plus we have access to like scanning electron microscopes, which are high powered. We have $1 million microscope at the university, which can power up to 600,000 times magnification. So we have analytical equipment that is unbelievable for a university of our size. Our central lab that our labs are part of have state-of-the-art equipment, multi-million-dollar facilities. Alf's lab, like he said, has drones that do everything. If you're in the wildlife side, these drones are very useful with the thermal imaging. They're moving instead of fixed wing aircraft that people fly. They're moving to drones for doing animal counts with helicopters or planes and stuff with thermal imaging on them. So there's a variety of things. I have a drone for my lab, believe it or not, and I'm a wood science guy because I do landscape mapping of wood properties, and having aerial imagery of it is very beneficial to us. So there's a lot of stuff, and the one thing I think that makes our faculty quite unique is that students, actually undergraduate students, get into our research laboratories. Normally students are into student laboratories, but all of my students at thesis level and even in my elective courses are in my research laboratory using the equipment that I do research with my funding and with publications and stuff like that. So they get their hands on state-of-the-art equipment that they will see in the real world. And that's what Ulf was mentioning. Our students come out sometimes better trained than the people they work for. So again, that's a feather in the cap for us and how we run our labs and how we educate our students, is to make sure that they have the most current technology in their hands. Like we use tablets, waterproof tablets in the field, and they're like notebooks and paper that you lose data with that. So, I mean, my group, we use body mounted tablets with all sorts of, acoustic technology. So we no longer cut trees down. We can test them through acoustic pulses that we can send through the trees. So, I mean, we jump on technology as it comes out and as it's appropriate. So, I mean, that's one thing we do like to expose our students to, is neat things. Like you say, we have lots of toys.
Let me tell you about my newest toy. We bought 3 kayaks that are self-propelled. And you may wonder, okay, whoopsie-doo, we got 3 kayaks. Well, they're not manned. We shove them out on shallow bodies of water with control from satellites back and forth across the lake, doing sonar measurements to properly measure the lake depth. And you may wonder, okay, who cares? It's for gold mining companies, for example. They have tailing ponds in this area that could be 1 kilometer, 2 kilometers long. They need to monitor the sedimentation levels in those. And the fastest way to do that is by sonar. And we are building these autonomous kayaks to scoot back and forth across the lake, controlled like a drone, but they're flying on the surface of the water. We also go into the water now with underwater. We call them rovers when they go in. So we fly down and look at fish habitat, whatnot. Jordan, over to you.
Awesome. Thank you very much for that. So next we're going to chat about career opportunities. So essentially coming full circle to first where we talked about the faculty at a broad scale, then into our programs and what we offer, unique learning opportunities and some of the unique laboratories and scientific equipment, as well as state-of-the-art equipment you'll be using. So this by no means is an exhaustive list of opportunities that you could participate in or receive or pursue after graduating from the Faculty of Natural Resources Management at Lakehead, but it is a broad spectrum of opportunities. I won't speak to any other one of them in particular, but the list is on the screen for you to sort of take note of or explore. I'll pass it back to the faculty to chat briefly if there's any really key opportunities here or some that stand out as really common paths for our graduates. I'll let you speak to that for a minute or two, and then we'll dive into our last slide about our successful alumni.
I'll give you one quick note. My first job as a forester was for Alberta Environment, Water Resources. I did flood and drought mapping for farmers. Basically came up with aerial views to see where they had been flooded, why they were flooded, or where they did not have any water. Again, as a forester, I worked for agriculture, and that was something I had no clue that I was going to do. Then I ended up in northern BC doing insect service. Matt, what was your first summer job or first real job after becoming a forester?
Well, my summer jobs, I worked mostly running saws. My first job after when I graduated was out west, and I was a consultant doing consulting. We did everything from block layouts, planting administrations, harvesting, stuff like that, scarifications after harvesting. Yeah, you name it. We were consultants, so we did everything that had to do with stuff in the bush. So yeah, right from the graduation to employed, like the rest of my class. And a lot of our students do end up in forest management of one form or another. But we have, as the list shows, and as Jordan mentioned, that's a short list compared to the number of jobs that there's literally. I mean, We have urban foresters, people who will go overseas and they'll take their knowledge and work overseas. You're more than able to do that. And when students do the field school, they get that bug for going overseas, so they look for positions like that. So.
And one thing not on this list, but I mean, definitely represented on today's session is the fact that you can continue your education, and then if academia is your choice of career path, that's certainly an option too. And we love to see our students go down that path because it's something that we're so familiar with. On that note, I'll pass it over to Hector, who's going to chat about one of our outstanding alumni, Sharon, who's from China.
So, thank you, Jordan. So yes, Sharon graduated from the Honors Bachelor of Environmental Management, and she continued on to her Master in Science in Forestry as well. So in a recent testimonial, she said that, or she mentioned that she really enjoys studying in a small size classroom environment that offer her more opportunities to participate, and that the field school was the best hands-on experience she ever had, as she got the chance to put in practice the theory she learned in the classroom environment with the help of her professors. And she was very proud to be part of both of her programs, the Honors Bachelor of Environmental Management and the graduate program as well.
Of course, and I know Sharon quite well. She used to work with international enrollment here at Lakehead University, and seeing her grow from her undergrad all the way to her grad, and sort of how she grew so many relationships within the faculty, but also personally as a self, and being more confident in being able to talk about some of these topics within forestry and within environmental management was really exciting. Thank you for checking out today's video. If you have any questions, you can always comment below. Stay connected and follow us on our social media channels to stay informed about upcoming webinars and get an insider sneak peek of Lakehead University. See you next time.